How excited would you be if the Rangers gave a big deal to Clayton Kershaw?
You know, I'm kind of conflicted about this because on the one hand, I'm really curious about how much more pitching he's got in him. But on the other hand, I do think it would be cool. It's a cool story. See the local boy come home, represent. And I know I go after Nolan Ryan never winning a Cy Young, but he was a quality pitcher here. He really was.
He wasn't what he was, obviously, with Anaheim and Houston, but he was still a good pitcher who took the ball, pitched the 200 innings, got the 300 strikeouts. I mean, still very good
absolutely
in baseball, but not arguably the most dominant guy where, when my dad played, he said the only reason he didn't win Cy Young is because he's on the Angels and they were the worst team in baseball. So,
and I'm not saying that Kershaw would throw a no-hitter or whatever, but it feels like it would be even more special to be out at the ballpark and see that awesome outing from Kershaw.
And this is where it's going to be interesting. We had Derek Holland on yesterday, and he did a nice job of just putting out that he doesn't think Kershaw's going to be a Ranger. That kind of Dodger for life is the way he sees it. But it was interesting that they didn't offer him the 1 year, $19 million contract. That's the qualifying offer is, Clayton, we'd love you back for another year. We're worried about your arm, but we'll give you the 1 year 19 because you're a Dodger. They decided not to do that, which makes him way more available. I had to check on this morning, and if you sign a guy that got offered the qualifying offer, let's just take one of the shortstops, whether it's Story, Correa, Seager, you lose your second round pick if you sign that person. Okay, so that is what happens now. The collective bargaining agreement gets in the way of this because the Players Association really wants that taken out. That's one of the things they're going to fight for because they don't feel it's fair to free agents.
And it deflates their potential value.
Then you're like, well, man, I'm going to lose my second round pick. I mean, those have become so valuable, even though they don't work out as much, right? I mean, second round picks are not, I would say out of second round picks, I'd have to look up this. I would say 50% of them, and I'm probably high on that, I'll go down to 40% of them ever make the major leagues. Ever make it. I'm not saying make it as a good player. 40% of the picks in the second round even ever make it a day in the major leagues. And I'd say out of your second round picks, I would say 15% are quality major leaguers.
I got
So you have about 4 to 5 guys in the second round that actually become quality players. And then you have another 5 that make the major leagues to 8. And then you have about 15 to 20 of them who never see a day in the major leagues in their career.
And when you factor in our draft track record, I'm fine. That doesn't even process in my, and I know it will for them, but for me, doesn't matter. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I think that's the overwhelming response I have gotten from Ranger fans is that if Clayton Kershaw was taking the mound every 5th day the way Nolan Ryan did, that you would feel like, oh my God, he's one of the 5 greatest left-handed pitchers of all time.
Yes.
He's in there with Randy Johnson, Sandy Koufax, Warren Spahn, Steve Carlton, Clayton Kershaw. Those are the 5 greatest left-handed pitchers of all time. Put them in any order you want, but those are the 5 greatest left in my mind. Hey, Whitey Ford is probably in consideration. Tom Glavine's in consideration, but to me, those are the 5 greatest left-handed pitchers of all time, and probably Randy Johnson to me is the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. Who do you think?
I was fascinated to hear you. It's just you don't usually hear people go ahead of Koufax. It just feels like that's the golden goose, and you're like, nah.
And that's a very good. I think it's a fun debate as a baseball fan. I think that's a fun debate to have. Who's the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time?
Okay, and maybe this is a segment for tomorrow or another day, but do you ever feel like you downgrade people that you saw in real life? I never saw Sandy Koufax pitch, so I feel like there's this epic backstory, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I totally saw Randy Johnson. Or you remember some random Tuesday where he got knocked around by, whatever team. I feel
when he hit Kevin Reimer and the bench is cleared and Nolan Ryan just sat on the bench I'm not going out for this silly stuff.
Why would he? Yeah.
So that was back when he struggled with command, which obviously he did with the Expos and early on in his Mariners career. But I think for the Rangers, you talk about they need to help out this fan base. I've also heard this too much this year. And hey, it is what it is. People tell me, I really want the Rangers to sign Clayton Kershaw. I think the Rangers should look at that because people are bringing up here, on the Twitch, they are saying that I'm just kind of like, I want Kershaw, but there's a lot of people also saying I've been done with the Rangers lately because of their lack of spending, because of the lack of winning.
Okay.
It's been 5 years, right? It's the first time in Rangers history they've gone 5 years in a row being an under 500 team.
Which is crazy.
Right. And so there's been a lot of lean years for the Rangers, but they've never gone 5 years in a row under 500. And so I would say the Kershaw situation would help out the fan base. And I don't say, hey, spend to make the fans happy, but I do think the Rangers do need to spend this offseason to help out the fan base.
I think there are a couple of, like, the spending to help out the fan base for sure, because I would show up and watch Kershaw.
Yeah.
Just
you
because
got to worry about his arm.
Yeah,
too.
we didn't get a chance to, like, you know, really truly embrace his career when he was a Dodger, even though we were, you know, Dodgers were my second team, I guess. So that's why I did get to check him out. But the other part too is like that is putting butts in seats. That's making money, right? Like, so that, like, when you looked at the stadium's emptiness this year, that's not going to help you spend.
Yep.
So my thing is, they said they weren't going to spend until you showed up. And then you didn't show up, and they were like, well, now maybe we should spend. So that's kind of interesting to me.
I think they realized that plan's not going to work, and they're like, oh crap.
But you need more than one Kershaw to be excited. You know, the one Kershaw is exciting, but Mike, you've talked about he can help the younger pitchers. He can help the younger players. Woody's talked about that with us on the show. He becomes the face
of the franchise in a weird way. He might.
But they can, like, but then you add another couple of other veteran players, and there are some young guys that can benefit and learn from them in the roster too. That Woody's talked about that with you and me, and maybe Kevin too. I can't remember if he was here that day, but we discussed that with Woody on helping the players. But you need more than one Kershaw. You need a couple of other players for fans to be like, because he's only pitching every 5 days maybe.